Hi everyone, this is Richard Osborne, the creator and developer of LearnBook. I'm recording a video to show the new version of LearnBook that is in testing at the moment and that will be released officially within the next month. So I wanted to show existing users where the different features and buttons are with this version to help you to get started. If you want to try the new version, there's a button on your current interface that says try beta version. You can click that to come to this interface. And also for users who haven't tried LearnBook yet, to show you what you can do with LearnBook, what it's designed for, what the possibilities are. So I'll just show you a group I'm currently working on to see what the interface looks like. So you can see that the new interface, I've taken the inspiration from a kind of email inbox concept, a little bit like Microsoft Outlook or something similar, where the lessons come up as like a list of emails, sort of like an inbox for your training, where the new lessons that the teacher puts in or future lessons will all appear here. So I'll show you an example of a lesson that I've been doing. We click on the lesson to see the messages that are inside that lesson. As always, the messages are split into different cards. So on the top card, it's the introduction to this lesson, which is about introducing yourself. So as I would do with a face-to-face lesson, I've put in just a simple listening activity just to get the learner thinking about how to introduce themselves without any particular grammar point. And in the next card, it's the vocabulary focus. So I've got a link to an exercise and ask the learner to write about their own self-introduction. So a bit of controlled practice that I can give feedback on. And finally, the last card is the practice part, where the learner is going to produce their own self-introduction by an audio recording that they can record just by clicking on the button and recording themselves. It goes immediately into the card. So it means that the messages are nicely separated. For anyone who doesn't know LearnBook, this is how we structure lessons in the DALT approach, the digitally assisted language training approach, is by separating up the chat into different parts that reflect a pedagogically sound language lesson. So all of my lessons are structured in this way. I'm sometimes using YouTube videos, or I'm using videos from TED. You can embed videos from anywhere on the internet that permits embedding. And I've asked some questions, just like a video worksheet, and waiting for the learner to respond to those. So that's the way that we do lessons. One of the new features is that you can star a lesson to mark as a favorite, which is probably a feature more for the learners, that if there's a lesson that's particularly important to them because of vocabulary or grammar, they can star that lesson and keep it in a list, especially if they're going to do repeated training courses with your school. That could be a useful thing for them to collect up their favorite lessons from their teachers. Because it would be cross-group. That would be, even if they have a new group in the future, it would still be the one universal favorites list. And flagging as well for teachers and learners, to keep a separate list of things like we do with emails, where we flag them as something that's to do or something that needs attention, so that when we come back, even if something has closed or we've completed something, we can still go back and check what the thing was that we wanted to do with that lesson. And there's also the evaluation filter, which is something that will come soon, that we're working on at the moment. Is the idea of having, for example, the initial level test in LearnBook and doing it via video recording, and then perhaps having the same type of lesson at the end of the course and comparing the two video recordings to see what kind of progress the learner has made, so that if we mark those lessons as evaluation lessons, then we can filter by evaluation to see only the lessons in that group that are evaluation lessons, but I haven't got any at the moment. So that's the general interface. As you can see, there's open on some of these lessons is to indicate that they are currently available. I've set an open date and a close date for each lesson, so the learner gets an email automatically when the lesson opens with a link to the lesson, and then an email one day before the lesson closes if they haven't completed it, to say this lesson requires your attention. And then I receive an email at the closing date to say who hasn't completed. As the teacher, I receive a report about who hasn't completed each lesson. So that's part of the feature of LearnBook, to try to automate the teacher's work as much as possible, so the teacher can pre-plan a lot of things and doesn't have to spontaneously come into the platform that often. That with automated emails through opening and closing dates, and manually sending notifications when they've added feedback to a lesson, for example. It's just all ways that the teacher can reduce the amount of work they actually have to do in communicating with the learners as much as possible. So the most important new feature is that I've separated the ability to create new lessons and to edit new lessons, and I've put that in a separate page, which is called the editor. Now this is a part that is very much in testing at the moment and is not complete, but I would like to show anyway the potential of what I think or what these features could bring to LearnBook. So if you just forgive me for the ugliness of the interface for a moment, and just try to imagine what this would accomplish. The group has settings that at the moment are simple as just setting an opening and a closing date for the group and the number of hours that they need to do in that group. The system will automatically calculate. I said before, the 1st of December was the opening date, and the 1st of March was the closing date, with a contract time of 25 hours. The system calculates precisely how much would be needed each week to do in LearnBook to achieve those hours. So if we had 25 LearnBook hours in the contract, there would need to be basically 2 hours per week of LearnBook over 4 months if we wanted to achieve that time target. And then what happens is the lessons, as you can see that I've set dates for, appear in the weeks for the opening date of the lesson where they would fall. So we can see the weeks where there is actually enough work done. Now in the fullness of time, what I want to do is have that, if this one, for example, has double the work that's needed, then the next week you'd have half of the work, or it could reduce the average time in the other weeks. Is something I would like to implement in the future. But at the moment, it's just very simply showing you that, okay, this week is fine. I've got enough time in here. Perhaps I could move this to the next week or something if I wanted to change that. But it gives an overview to the trainer and also to the administrators of the school to see that each group has the required amount of work or not, that this group needs more work because there's only 90 minutes. And if we continue with this average per week, we're not going to reach the contract hours at the end. So it'll give the admins an overview of, has enough work been set by the teacher, and then also has enough work been done and completed by the learner. That means that we can generate an attestation of their connection time to be able to justify the billing for the training. So that's the concept of this program builder, as I'm calling it. Another important thing here is the idea of templates. So for those of you who already use templates, that's been changed slightly in that the templates are now a kind of pick and mix menu where you can either choose from existing groups or from templates to take existing lessons and simply drag and drop them. So for example, if I wanted this group to have, at the very beginning, perhaps I want them to have a tutorial for the learners how to use LearnBook, I can just drag, I can look at the group first, or look at the lesson first if I want to see what's in there. This one's blank, but it's not important. I can drag and drop the lesson in, and it will copy the lesson and the messages into this group. So it won't move it. It won't change anything about the original group. It will only copy the lessons from that group. So if I show you another one that does have lessons, like this one. So if I take this with the videos, text, not the responses from the learner, only the messages from the teacher will be copied if I drag and drop into one of the weeks. And I will update the time. I can change the time by clicking on the lesson and modifying the lesson time, modifying the section times. And then we'll see it update, and we'll see that we've got enough work in there to be able to justify the billing that we're doing for that week. So this one doesn't have enough. Perhaps I have to add more sections to it. So maybe I'll find a better tutorial somewhere else, like this one, where there actually is a video. So I can even drag and drop what section from another lesson of another group, drop that into the section of this current group that I'm editing here. And then again, I can change the time of that and try to bring that up to what we need for the week. So now we've got the time that we need for that week. That's fine. We can move on to the next one. So that's what I want. I want to have the simple, quick way of seeing, yes, I have enough for that week. I can plan this week. I can plan. So the teachers can really plan in advance, or the administrators can plan in advance and can use their existing content, or can use the templates that are in the platform, like, for example, conference calling, to be able to fill up that time. So you have, I have a 1.5 hour lesson. That's perfect. I can put that in and then simply have another feedback session for 30 minutes. And then that's my 2 hour lesson taken up. So that facility is what I want with this, what I want eventually when I can clean up this system and have it looking good. That's what I want from this interface. So I hope that's been clear. I'm still developing templates. I'm trying to develop more and more. And there'll be more content available for you to use once you get in and start using this program builder. And I would really appreciate feedback. So if you start using it and you find anything good or bad about it, please get in touch. My email's under the video. And yeah, good luck.